Illegal border crossings from Mexico reach highest on record during December before the January lull. Okay, so highest on record for illegal border crossings. Let's read about that. Arrests for illegal border crossings from Mexico reached an all-time high in December since monthly numbers have been released. Authorities said Friday, exposing a growing vulnerability for President Joe Biden's campaign for a second term. The Border Patrol tallied 249 arrests, 249,000, up 31% from 191 in November and 13% from 222 in December 22, the previous all-time high. So we're reaching new records. New records.
Highest on record must be Pink Floyd vinyl.
Highest on record. That's it. We don't deserve you, PoPog. You have excellent jokes. Let's see. What was I looking at? I was looking over here so I can see what's on the screen. Okay. Arrests fell more than half during the first 2 weeks of January, consist of historical trend and enhanced enforcement. Okay, that's cool. Arrests in December, 46,000, erasing much of the decline that followed the start of deportation flights to Venezuela in October. So there's a lot going on. There's people moving, there's people going up, there's people going down, there's people watching, there's people paying attention. There's a lot going on, including bark boys barking at me. Let's see. Tucson, Arizona was again the busiest corridor for the illegal crossings among 9 sectors on the Mexican border, with 80,000 arrests. When including migrants who were allowed to enter the United States under the new or expanded legal pathways, migrant encounters totaled 302,000, for the first time shattering the previous high of 269,000. U.S. authorities admitted 45,000 people in the land crossing the Mexico December through an online appointment system called CBP-1. Okay, and let's see. So, is this the invasion that the right wing has been telling me is coming? Is this an invasion? I don't think so, because these people want to be here. You know what I mean? They don't want to knock our military over and install their own. They don't want to throw out our government and create their own. They don't want to displace you. They don't want to steal your land and take all your resources. What these people want is a stable government that works. They want a stable society in which to live. And that's why I don't think the word invasion fits. They want you to feel like it is right. The right-wing politicians, the right-wing people, the ones that are screaming about it, Donald Trump wants you to feel like this is an invasion. That's why they use those words. They use the invasion. They use this concertina wire, which is used in war. PoPog, I turned it off for the news bits. She didn't die. She just turned off so that I don't get interrupted while I'm ranting. Excellent point, though. Yeah, you noticed that. So yeah, during the news bits, I'll turn her off and then I'll turn her back on afterward. We can vibe about it. As much as I love your jokes, they sometimes interrupt the flow, the funky flow. And I was watching I was watching some of the recaps and stuff like that, turning it into YouTube videos. It was me, it was Thomas, it was the robot lady, and it was the video game soundtrack talking all at the same time, and it became a cacophony. It was just so much going on some of those older ones from a couple of weeks ago, and it just got too messy. You couldn't hear what anybody was saying. It was like one of those online debates where there's 9 people on the screen and they're all screaming their own thing at the same time. So at the moment, yeah, I'll have her turned off until we go through all the stories, and that was the wrong button. Until we go through all the stories. All right. So is this an invasion? I don't think so. These are people who want to be here. They want to provide. They want to be a part of this society. I think we should make them a part of the society. I'm not saying we just open it up and let everybody in, but we should make it easy. The arrests prove that we're stopping the people from coming in outside of the ports of entry. Invasion is the word you use, but I'm not sure the original usage of the word is context that it applies. Yeah. So I don't think... Should we be paying attention to who's coming in? Yes. The fact that we're arresting that many people suggests that there is a understanding that there's a border and you're not allowed to cross it improperly. Those are the people who are crossing improperly. If you just go to the port of entry, we can document you, we can find out who you are, we can trace you, we can track you, we can put you into a system, and then you can go and you can be here. I'm okay with that. Let's give them social workers. Let's fill the border with social workers, not soldiers. social workers, not soldiers. And we'll figure out, do you have a place to live? Do you have a place to go? Have you got any plans? Do you have anybody you can stay with? Have you got a home to go to? I don't want them living on the street. I don't like homelessness. I don't want them to come here, walk across the border, and then just start begging for money on the street corner. That's not good. Do you have a plan? Have you got something set up? If it's absolutely no, then maybe we send them back. The right Thomas is here, just in time as well. I'm going to hop into the thing so I can get his idea. We're going to the stream channel. Boop.
Hello.
And there we are. Hello. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. You guys in chat, let me know if his mic is too low or too high, things like that. But I think I got the settings right.
Sorry I'm late, I had to drop some friends off at the airport.
No, it's okay. I will not hold that against you. Chat might, but they probably won't. You know how ruthless they are. You know how ruthless they are. So today, we're going to Civil War. You ready for Civil War, Thomas? Are you ready for a Civil War?
Oh boy, I can't wait.
We have got immigration numbers. We've got Texas going on kind of a war path, but not quite. They're not on a war path. They're just, I think Governor Abbott is talking big and trying to be a super strong, cool, strong guy, so that he will seem cool. I think that's what he wants. I think Governor Abbott wants to talk a big game, use strong language like invasion, and put up all the concertina wire so he can be a war hero, and then he can use that to get elected next time. I think that's all he's doing. Does he want an actual civil war? I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, if you're talking about like an armed force being an invasion, then definitely doesn't meet the criteria, but an intrusion or encroachment would be an invasion. So I guess technically the definition is accurate.
I don't think it is. An invasion would
according to the third definition.
Right, and an invasion would suggest that they want to supplant us, and they don't. The poor people coming across the border, if they're doing it illegally, want to do so that they can be a part of our society. They would like to be Americans. They want to be here. They want to be a part of our economy. They want to help. They want to have a job. They want to have the good life that we have. If they were violently coming over to supplant us, to replace our government with their own, if they were trying to take our homes and then live there themselves, that would count more as an invasion, but I don't think that's what's happening.
So, well, okay, what's your point here?
That the right wing uses the word invasion to create fear and anger.
I don't think so, but okay.
Well, are there people afraid and angry about this situation?
Well, certainly, they're upset.
And that upsettedness is created by the choice of language that Republicans use. Everything the Republicans say is chosen. They choose the language to get a point across. I'm choosing my words now to get points across. And I think the point of the word invasion, of the warlike rhetoric, is to make people afraid, to make them worried, to make them more concerned, so that they get support, so that that the Republicans can get the support they want.
I see. So what would you call it?
Immigration. We already have a term for it.
Immigration has legal channels for it, right?
Right. And the people who are not doing the legal channels, hundreds of thousands of them, are not doing so because the legal channels are pathetic. They're not.
Okay, so if I leave my front door unlocked, and you walk through my front door uninvited, have you invaded my home?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, invaded, yeah, kind of.
Yes,
so, yes.
You have invaded my home.
Okay, great.
Even though the front door is open,
it's not a public space.
I didn't invite you in.
It's not
You're
a public
not
space.
Supposed to be here.
The country is public. You know what I mean?
Not on a global scale.
The country is public. Am I allowed to walk down your sidewalk without an invitation?
Sure, but
Great.
You're
That's
also
the
a
situation
citizen of the country in the sidewalk.
Right.
So we're talking about expanding area of who's invited to be here and whatnot. You are a citizen of the United States. You are invited to be on the public space of the United States. People from other countries are not.
Because
without us letting them in.
Because the legal pathways are shit. They're intentionally, willingly underfunded, undermanned, underappreciated, and overly complicated. Because there are certain people on the right wing, the hard right wing people, do not want other people coming here.
Trespass is also
So
a good word for
I'm
it.
trespassing
Okay,
rather than
so
invading. So there is a difference
yes,
there. So
which is also exactly what illegal immigrants are doing, is trespassing.
great. Can we
But
make
is there
the
really
legal
much of a difference?
avenues? Can we make the legal avenues better, more efficient, bigger highways to get them to not be trespassing?
Sure.
Well, the Republicans push for that? No, they
Or
don't. They hate that.
until then,
They fight tooth and nail against it. And because they fight against it, it boggles my mind. They wouldn't be illegal if you gave them legal pathways.
certainly. But I also think there is such a thing, or there is something to be said for having some standards for who you want coming in as well.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Most of the people are coming through those legal entry points, which is good. That's what I want. I want them to go there. I want them to go to that legal entry point, sign some papers, do some paperwork, have a social caseworker, discuss with them what their options are, what's going on, why they're here, where they're going, if they got plans. Fill the place with social workers, not soldiers, and figure out if they've got a plan. Do you have a place to stay? Do you have somebody to move in with? Have you got family here? What do you have going on? If you're here running away from the thing, like the asylum seekers always say that, and it's kind of true. There's an awful lot of violence in Mexico and even further south in South America. Those are dangerous places. Good people are running away from that, as they always will. And let's make a good system that works rather than fight about nonsense, which is what I usually think that Republicans do. They get upset about who's coming and how, and they panic. I
wouldn't
really
call
think
it panic.
I think
I
it's
mean,
panic.
I definitely think that we are concerned about who's coming and how. I mean, if the answers to those questions are, I don't have any, particular skills, I don't have a real plan, and I don't have any money, and I just want to come over here because you guys have good benefits. Do I want to let them in? No.
Is that not? That's what the social worker would be there for. A social worker would be able to help them out with that, to
Right.
give them
and
an
we
idea
already
on how to
filter
do
people based on their skills and whatnot
that.
to come here.
Mm-hmm.
But if they come here illegally, there's no filtering happening.
Right, and
Right.
why are they coming here illegally? Because the legal channels are small, thin, time gated, and expensive. If the legal pathways were easier than the illegal, they would take them.
I get that, except for the fact that if they were told no by the legal pathway, they would still come in anyway.
Then they might come in illegally, yes. At which point we would arrest them. And we arrested hundreds of thousands of them. Even under Biden, they arrest hundreds of thousands. And this is again a framing issue. I think I don't know if you were on last week when I talked about it, but if Donald Trump is the president and they arrest 100,000, right-wing media talks about how strong he is and how great he is and how he's totally securing the border. If Biden's the president and he arrests 100,000, same number, they will scream about how it's obvious and blatant evidence that he has an open border because they're playing games with it. This isn't about making the country better. It's about scoring political points.
Problem really is, if you wanted to expand the legal pathways, then you have to have funding for certain things. You need to have funding for having all those social workers being added to border crossing areas. You also need to add funding for immigration and customs enforcement and our border patrol, which those are two things that the left is absolutely not willing to increase funding for.
Yeah, generally they don't want to because they don't think that they're going to do the social worker bit. If you put together a plan where you would send hundreds of thousands of social workers down there, the left would support it. But if you want to send a bunch of soldiers, they wouldn't. I mean, the left is upset right now about concertina wire, which is like it's a warfare thing, right? I mean, you look at a World War II documentary. There's concertina wire everywhere. This reminds them of war. So we're sending soldiers, we're sending arms, we're sending weapons, we're sending tanks, we're not sending tanks, but we might, if you ask some people, and we're sending these barbed wire. That's warfare. So that's why they're not on board for it. If you were suggesting to them that they would send people to do the legal pathways, get the people to sign the paperwork, and fill out the paperwork, and if they fail that paperwork, if they have crimes in Mexico, we would send them back. The left would be on board for that. But that would...
What you're doing, hold on. What you're saying is let them come over first and then figure out if we want to keep them and then send them back. Texas is saying, no, we're going to keep them out until we know who they are. We want them to come in through the legal channels, and then they can come in. Like, if someone knocks on my door, I'm not just going to be like, yeah, dude, come on in. Who are you? You know?
Right, and you can sell that. This is not a horrible thing that you're
So,
explaining.
so if someone repeatedly comes to my door or enters my home, even if they don't mean any harm to me specifically, I might start putting up barriers
You're
to entering my home. I
you're
might lock my door more,
you're
or
you're conflating the private versus the public again. Your home is private. The street is public. So if they're walking down the street, you don't get to demand to know who they are before they use your street. It's public. Anybody's allowed to use it.
okay,
And I
America is public
public.
for Americans and
Mm,
people who are invited here.
Right. And so we have to.
So if they have a visa, they've asked to be here, we said
Mhm.
yes, you can come.
Hmm.
If the country of America does not say someone can be here, they are not invited to be here. It's not a public space for them.
Right. That's fine. We're all agreeing
I haven't
on
conflated
this.
anything.
You have. You've conflated
You
the
you just
people coming
agreed
in.
with.
The people in public. You're suggesting they're coming to your front door. I think your analogy is not perfect. The people in the public are walking down the street. They're asking to walk down the street, and you're saying no because you're going to come to my front door. You're conflating the public and the private. These people aren't banging on the door to come into your private place. They're standing at the edge of the street saying, "Can we use the street? Can we be in your public?" And the answer is we should have a system for it. The left is okay with having a system for it. We want a system to find out who these people are, and if they
Everyone's
don't fit
fine with
the
having a
system, we
system
send
for
them back. Well, Republicans aren't. Working Senate, House Republicans do not want a system because one, they wouldn't get to yell and scream about it anymore. They wouldn't be able to fearmonger about it, and then if Joe Biden does it, Joe Biden wins. I'm going to bring up this next story right here.
Our the fact is that both sides want a system of some kind. It's just that the standards for who that system accepts and who does not is way different between the two of us. Like, I want someone to
I don't
come in
think so.
that has skills that we need, who will be capable of supporting themselves, and has no history of doing anything wrong. Whereas it seems to me that those standards, which are not particularly high in my opinion, are something that the left doesn't even want to adhere to. Like, most of these people that come in illegally don't have a particular skill on offer that we would need. It's unskilled labor.
We need lots of unskilled labor. We need
No, we don't.
so
We need
much of it.
we
Then
need
why are we
increasingly.
hiring them? Why, if you
We
go to
need
Texas and you eat a salad, you supported unskilled labor. If you've ever had lettuce in the state of Texas, it was picked by an unskilled laborer.
Probably.
And we need it. If we didn't have it, that lettuce wouldn't make it to the table. Those tomatoes wouldn't be in your salad. You wouldn't
That's fine.
be able
We
to
have
do that.
we have
We
plenty of
need them.
homegrown unskilled labor that can
No,
do
we
that.
don't. No, we
Yes, we do.
don't. We
Yeah, we do.
absolutely don't. It's not there. The reason they're coming is to get those unskilled jobs. The reason they're coming on those visas is so that they can do that work and then send the money back to their family and then bring their family over. And they overstay the visas. Why do the visas exist? So that they can work for us. We need them.
Okay. No, we don't. The fact is that the addition of unskilled labor has an overall effect on an economy.
Making it better.
By
Yes.
no, not making it better, because what it does is it suppresses the wages for your lower skilled workers.
It only suppresses the wages for those people who would be
It
doing that
also
job.
increases the standards for unskilled labor positions that are not being filled by undocumented migrants.
Run that
So,
by me one more time. One
the
second
reason
while I
that-
talk to chat. Yes, PoPog, I would do an unlimited
The-
number of migrants.
The reason, exactly, I know you would. That's why I said our standards are completely different.
Hmm.
And the lower, so the fact that there are certain jobs, let's say we have a pool of unskilled labor, okay?
It's
The fact that
incredibly
there are
small.
certain jobs.
Are you saying in America of only Americans? In
Of-
America, only
No,
Americans.
a pool as in of jobs available, right?
There are jobs available. Okay, great.
Some of those unskilled jobs are going to hire undocumented migrants, right?
Okay, because they're cheap.
This reduces the amount of jobs available,
Right.
and we have our own supply of unskilled labor as well,
Which is
which
incredibly
means that
small.
there are two things that can happen.
Okay.
Wages can be suppressed, or the standards for hiring someone in that unskilled labor position go up, which is why applying for a job at Target requires a fucking bachelor's degree now. I'm being
That's
I'm exaggerating a bit, but
that's not because the poor people are coming to pick our vegetables. Those two things are not connected.
They are.
They're not. The poor people are coming here because the companies are willing to pay them less. If those people, those undocumented workers, were being paid more, because they're citizens now, they come here, they fill out, they go through the port of entry, they fill out the forms, the social worker hooks them up with a job who's paying them more than pennies, prices might go up, but at the same time, those people are not harming the system. They're part of the system. They're great. This is good. This is what we need. This is what we want. We want workers.
It's not,
we need
because
unskilled labor. We need lots of it.
In addition to the labor pool for the number of people who are of this category of unskilled labor and whatnot, means that there is a greater supply of that labor. It means that the value of that labor goes down, right? Now, we've tried to combat this problem because I'm sure that you are in support of a minimum wage.
I think
that is the attempt to combat the fact that unskilled labor is so devoid of value at the moment, even though some of it is backbreaking.
Unskilled labor is devoid of value
in terms of being paid, right? Because there's such a huge pool of unskilled labor that nobody is willing to pay more than the minimum wage for that work.
I think you got it all backwards, boss. I really do. I think your entire thing is backwards. I think those companies want to pay people less. Does the company want to pay people less?
Of course they do.
Of course they do. And who can they pay the least? The illegal immigrants. Those are the people they pay the least.
Because there is no minimum wage for
Great, so there's more profit for them. This is a profit-seeking motive that has led them to this. And in doing so, they need those unskilled people. They need them. They don't want to hire the American high school graduate because that person gets the minimum wage. They would have to follow labor laws. They would have to make sure that they're not exploiting them. They get to exploit the immigrants. They get to
understand that.
Do those things. So they are the ones driving this.
That's not a counter to what I'm saying, though. What I'm saying is that if you have, let's say, 1,000 jobs available, and there are 900 people who fit the category for that job, they're willing to do that job, right? Well, that's a deficit of 100 people to fill 1,000 jobs.
Sure.
Which means that those 1,000 jobs, those companies that are running or maintaining those 1,000 jobs, are going to have to compete with one another for that labor, right? They're going to have to offer people more pay, more benefits, etc., in order to get those people to work for them, so that the other company that isn't paying as much, well, those guys are going to not have workers for them.
Right. I'm only willing to pay $5, and so fewer people come to work for me, for my company.
Exactly. But you're going to see that you don't have workers now. And if you don't have workers, well, you don't have a product. So you're going to have to be like, okay, well, maybe I'm willing to pay $7 instead of $5. And I'll throw in some, 401k benefit. Right? Well, if that's company A, and then company B, which was paying $6, right, sees that company A is now paying $7, and company B's workers who were working for them now go, well, company A is paying $7 and they have a shortage of labor over there. I'm going to go work over there. Now company B is like, whoa, I don't have workers. I can't put my product out. Company B has to raise their wages. Like, all right, well, I'll pay you $8. This happens in reverse when you have too much labor. So when you have 1,100 workers for the 1,000 jobs, well, now there's 100 people that are like, hey, that guy's making $7, I'll do the job for $6. And then it's, hey, that guy's doing the job for $6, I'll do it for $5. Because the alternative is you don't make any money. So that's what I'm getting at here is when you have a surplus of this labor, that's what the companies want, is the surplus of labor.
They're both undercut by Company C, who bought and paid illegal immigrants to do it for nickels, for pennies. They're both undercut by him.
I'm saying that it should not be possible. We should not be letting these people in the first place to do that.
Then fix that problem. That's a problem Congress can fix. That is a problem they can and they won't.
That's the problem that Texas is trying to fix.
No, it's not. They're keeping the poor masses out instead of going after the companies that do the illegal hiring. They're out of their minds. They could pass laws to prevent those illegal people from being hired, but they won't. Why won't they do it? Because that cuts into capitalism. It cuts into the company's profit, and then the investors are the
I
key.
100% agree. We should have nationwide e-verify,
Love
and
it.
everyone should be required, or actually, the penalties for hiring illegal immigrants for a job is should be a lot worse than they are.
Hmm. And
I agree with you.
and who's against that plan that you just put forward?
Uh,
Lobbyists,
who's
capitalists,
against nationwide e-verify?
lobbyists, capitalists, people who want to make money. And who do those lobbyists and those capitalists talk to? The people in government. And I'm not saying it's all Republicans who are on that, but Joe Biden's a severe capitalist, and I think that if your e-verify plan, which I'm on board for, were passed, those companies would lose money, and then companies losing money is the only fucking sin that our government recognizes. Companies losing money is the only thing
Okay.
that is not allowed.
I will tell you that
You're allowed to do anything
the
else.
nationwide e-verify program is one that is supported by Republicans. They've been trying to push this for literal years, like over a decade.
Okay.
And the left has been fighting them about it the whole way through.
Okay. It's probably because they're implementing it badly. I'll look into e-verify and things like that and see who's in charge of it and who's suggesting that we do these things and who isn't. But
I promise you that nationwide e-verify was part of Trump's original 2016 platform, and he tried to push it while he was in office. And Republicans, now that they're back in control of the House and Senate, are trying to push it again. The most recent attempt was May 2023. It's it's not a thing that the left wants.
It's not a left. It's not if, and this is just my guessing, that the left doesn't want it because it's implemented in a systemically racist way. That's my guesstimate, but I'm just guessing.
Silly.
How is that silly? If it were a bad plan that harms people, they wouldn't support it. Here's the latest in the things that are going on. Biden says he'll shut down the border if deal gives him authority. The White House statement comes a week after a frantic negotiation in the Senate. So the Senate is fighting over these things. President Joe Biden on Friday urged Congress to pass a bipartisan bill to address the immigration crisis in the nation's southern border. He's saying he would shut down the border. He would shut down the border. So here's a Democrat. He's not a leftist. Don't get that confused. And he said, what's been negotiated would, if passed into law, be the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border we've ever had in the country. So that's what he's saying. It would give me, as president, a new emergency authority to shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. And if given that authority, I would use it the day I signed the bill into law.
So here's my problem with this, is that the last time a Democrat promised Republicans that they would secure the border in return for immigration reform was when Reagan granted amnesty to like millions and millions of undocumented migrants.
Right.
And the promise in return was supposed to be border security, and that never manifested.
It's only gone up since then. Border security has gone up severely since then. It just hasn't been perfect because it can't be.
No. Our border security has and always, I'm sure will be terrible.
It always will be, yes. I don't know why we would fight to make it more terrible.
We should make it better.
We should make it better. I agree. I've suggested some plans to make it better. You suggested some plans to make it better that we could probably work on. But what we're not going to do is get that through Congress because somebody needs to make political points. This plan that Joe Biden is agreeing to do to shut down the border is not a left-wing idea. It's a right-wing idea that they suggested and he's agreed to. And now they're saying no because they don't want him to win. This is the Speaker of the House. Biden urges Congress to embrace the border bill, but House Speaker suggests it's dead on arrival. It's their plan. It's the Republican plan that they won't agree to. Republicans put forward a plan. Joe Biden says yes. The Republicans said, wait, no, because they're playing political football. They don't care about it. And Donald Trump doesn't want it to pass because it's a good thing. Donald Trump does not want Joe Biden to pass something that's good for Americans because he doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't give a fuck about the border. He doesn't give a shit about any of the people that are voting. He only wants his own power. Sorry, I'm ranting.
I mean, that's like your opinion, man.
I know, but it's what it looks like to me. Why is
it me what it looks like to you? That's fine, but I mean, you certainly don't have a look into the guy's brain. You know,
Who, this guy or Trump?
Yeah, both.
We can only look at what they're saying, what they're doing, and make assumptions. The congressional GOP is refusing to do a government, even if it's their own plans. Yes, that's kind of the point I'm getting to. Thank you, Shinzinto. They want government to be done. Biden says yes, okay, let's do some government, and they're like, no. They fired the last Speaker of the House because he did a government, and they're about to fire this one for doing government stuff. If this guy pushes this through, they'll cancel his ass too, and we'll go through another 100 Speaker votes. The Republican people in Congress mostly, and some in the Senate, do not want the government to function.
Sure they do.
No, they don't.
They definitely want it to function.
Want it to function. If Joe Biden
They don't want it to move
everything,
in the direction that.
if he agreed to everything that they had, they would shut it down.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
The
If Joe Biden was like, "Hey, anything you put on my desk, I'll sign it," and like.
He just did. He agreed to the Senate bill on the border to shut it down. The terms under the deal, under discussion, which are largely agreed to, but yet not yet final, would also give DHS expulsion authority if border encounters hit an average of 4,000 a day. So we're setting a cap, we're setting a number. A metric that includes asylum appointments. The authority would become mandatory if daily crossings average more than 5,000 people for a week or over 8,500 a day. So there's a hard cap. Do not go past this limit. This is the law. We're not allowed to go past this. This is a critical tool that allows us to reassert control of the border on day one if the law is being signed, while all other provisions, streamlined asylum and surging resources can be implemented. So while we come up with plans to make these asylum things plan, this is what the Republicans have put forward. And he has said yes. They changed their mind and said no.
These are two different chambers of Congress.
Yes. And they're
so one
party,
chamber,
yeah, and they're the same
is
party.
saying
Should they not
is
be
negotiating within itself, and then the other chamber is saying, "Hey, that deal is not good enough," which is how this is supposed to work. This is why we have two chambers.
Okay,
in the first place.
great. Then nothing will happen. Then it'll just get stuck in limbo forever, and nothing will happen. I thought this was a dreadful, terrible nightmare monster emergency that was going to kill millions if we don't fix it right away. Donald Trump sure seems to say it's an invasion.
No one said it would kill millions.
It's an invasion, Thomas. Haven't you heard? It's an invasion. Invasions don't just get ignored while we work out slow, well thought out programs through Congress.
I'll ask you this question: why was illegal crossing down so much under Trump and up so much under Biden?
Because two reasons. One, COVID was happening, so they were sick.
Even Trump's first 2 years,
and
that
then
was, or first 3 years,
the other
they were
reason,
way down.
Yeah, there is another reason. There is one reason. That's one. The other is that he was putting the kids in cages and separating the families.
Oh, bull fucking shit.
How was that bull fucking
Obama
shit?
did the same thing.
Yes, and they
immigration
were
was high under Obama too.
Yes, and if you've got a guy on TV saying, "I want them to stop coming here, build a wall, and arm
In fact,
that
the
wall,"
kids in
people
cages
won't show up.
stories, the pictures that were used that were from the Obama era.
Yes, because he wanted to catch the middle. Democrats are not leftists. Democrats want the middle voters to vote for them, and that means sometimes they have to do the things that the people on the right want, so that they seem bipartisan. This is
that's so silly.
Obvious thing. Yes, the Obama put the kids in cages too, but he didn't brag about it and talk about how great it was and how awesome he is at it.
I don't
And
think Trump ever
suggest
bragged
build a
about putting
wall.
kids in cages.
He didn't brag about that, but the way he talked, was Trump a tough talker on immigration? Did he have more incendiary, warlike rhetoric? Yes. That makes people not show up. If they think they're going to get towards that border and shot in the head, they don't show up. He was more threatening, is the point I'm trying to get to.
Okay, so
Would you suggest
what
that
you're
he was
getting
more
to
threatening?
is that the point. So what you're getting at is illegal crossings were down under Trump versus under Biden and even Obama because Trump's stance on illegal crossing was more harsh.
Yes.
And people saw that and said, well, if that's your opinion towards it, then we won't come.
Or we'll come illegally. We won't go to the thing. We'll try other ways to sneak in.
No.
Yes.
Illegal border crossings were way down under Trump.
Yes,
and then they surged to new all-time highs under Biden.
Yes, because they were afraid to die. So yeah, if we put a bunch of fucking tanks down there, we can just murder them all, and then they won't be here. Great plan. Except I don't think it's great. It's
That's
okay
not
to
the plan at
harm
all.
people.
It's if it comes down to literally just someone's stance, their public stance on the issue,
Hmm.
then yes, they should have a much harsher stance at all times. Then, even if it doesn't even manifest in terms of policy, which it never did under Trump.
Right. I don't think
Not
they
really.
ever built the wall and started shelling south. They never did that. But
I
if
mean,
they had,
they were
wouldn't
never going
that
to fire anything at
right?
anyone, but
If
they did
well,
start building the wall.
I don't know. You ever been on Twitter?
Uh,
They sure seem to want to. They sure tell me on the internet that they want to. But those aren't the people making policy. But the guy on Twitter who wants to shoot people who cross the border is a voter. There's no possible way that guy's not voting for somebody. If you are so political pilled, if you are paying attention to I mean, we all know that the center, the people in the middle, don't really pay attention to politics. I dig that. That's fine. Those people aren't posting on Twitter about shooting everyone who comes across the border. They're not. They don't care because they're nice and comfy. They only care about traffic and gas prices. They don't give a shit about anything else. The people who are posting those things, the people who are screaming online, and the people who are calling for these things to happen, vote. And they vote for the Republican who is the harshest. Is that a fair sentence? Do you think I'm correct in that? So what? They call for more harshness. Donald Trump is more harsh. That makes people not come across the border, but it is
excellent.
Good.
Great. Mission accomplished.
Now we're short on the people that we need to do the work.
We want to be short on those people.
So that
as citizens, we want that to happen. To what end? Is so that our wages go up. In the same concepts I explained just earlier ago about how the market reacts when you have 900 workers for 1,000 jobs versus 1,100 workers for 1,000 jobs.
And if prices of eggs go up because there's no illegal immigrants to pick them, is that
they go up
just a
somewhat.
thing? And if
then I will copy paste you. I will copy paste you all the arguments in favor of minimum wage, and how that doesn't really impact company profits all that much. But I think we should be making more than minimum wage, and I don't think that should be a government thing where we raise minimum wage and then continue to allow illegal immigration to undercut it. That's so silly. Whereas you just reduce your pool of unskilled labor, and wages will rise naturally.
That's the point you're trying to get to reduce your pool of unskilled labor. Okay, I think all of your points move towards that end, and I don't think we can do that. We have more labor than laborers. Right now?
How many times? I don't think we do.
We have more.
I don't believe that.
We have more need of these people than I think you're accepting.
I think the whole idea that there's like a labor shortage and whatnot is total nonsense. There are plenty of people working like 2 or 3 part-time jobs that could be making what they're making doing a full-time job, but no companies are willing to offer full-time and all the benefits that come with it right now. But if we had a worse shortage of unskilled labor, they would be definitely offering full-time and benefits.
Okay, it's economics as usual. I don't believe. It's not that I don't believe you believe what you're saying. I don't believe the people who write those papers. They have an agenda, and it's to make their bank account go up. And if lying to make their own bank account goes up, they will. If lying about immigration makes someone richer, they'll do it. I think the media is the most obvious place for this. I think Alex Jones is a liar. Alex Jones is a liar. And by lying, he gets more money. And by saying the things that people want to hear, he will make more money.
Who benefits the most from allowing illegal immigration at the levels that we are right now?
The companies that pick fruit.
Yeah, so you've got the companies, and then you've got the illegal immigrants themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Those are the 2 groups that benefit the most, because the illegal immigrants get paid, even if it's only
it's little.
It's $6 an hour. It's better than making 80 cents an hour over in Mexico.
It's better than the violence
Guatemala
and
or wherever
things that are down there too as well. Yeah, they're moving up in the world.
So the companies and the undocumented workers are the ones that benefit the most from allowing them to come through. So and you don't like the companies, and neither do I necessarily,
I think they're
and
exploiting
the
people.
undocumented workers are not American citizens.
They're the
So it
exploited.
doesn't serve the best interest of my country to allow them to come in.
Make them unexploitable.
So shouldn't
Make
we?
them unexploitable. Make it where the company can't hire the people without the e-verify. Make it where the people who come in are verified. Problem
Okay,
goes away.
I have a leftist on board with nationwide verify. That
Great.
might be the
I
first
think
of
it's
all
a good
time.
idea. I think it's a fine idea. That's part of the asylum-seeking ports of entry. Do I want random people coming and going? Not yet. I want that border to be open. I don't want any border anywhere. I have many times driven from Texas to Oklahoma. There is a border. It's just a sign. You just keep driving. You don't even have to slow down. And when I do that, am I subject to different laws? Yeah, I actually am. There's very slight differences between the laws of Oklahoma and Texas. They
I'm
didn't.
sorry, I missed that little bit right there. What?
The law changes when you cross that border from Texas to Oklahoma. It
Yes,
changes.
slightly.
So I am under new, different state laws just by drive. I didn't even have to slow down. I just drove by the sign.
Uh-huh. And
And
we
it's
have
fine. Nothing goes wrong. Nothing is terrible. I haven't upended the entire
yes, we have
Oklahoma economy.
see, we have this thing. It's this agreement between Texas and Oklahoma and also 48 other states,
Hmm.
where we unified.
Sounds like a
And
diplomatic solution, doesn't it?
well, I'm definitely not advocating for us to annex all of South America.
Not right away.
So
We can become
You know.
partners with them. We can become diplomatically okay with them. We can become best friends with them. We can push to be better. We can push to make them better. We start with just Mexico because they're right there. We can become friendly with them. We can become they're our largest trading partner in the world, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's Canada, but I'm quite sure it's Mexico. We trade with them all day, every day. Why is there this wild ass militaristic fervor from certain people about that border? Doesn't make any sense. People come and go all the time. So why don't we diplomatically make their country better? And in doing so, the differences between their laws and our laws will be less. Just like the very tiny difference between Oklahoma and Texas law is so small that most people wouldn't even notice it. We could do that with Mexico.
Well, a couple of problems with that. First one is, do you think that all Mexicans want to be Americans?
I didn't want to make them all Americans. I want to make them diplomatically the same. I want to be diplomacy. I want to be diplomatic with them so that there isn't such a giant gap. Is there some sort of gap that people are leaving that country and coming to ours? Find that gap. Comprehend the gap. Why
yes,
is it
Mexico
why is it
is
happening?
riddled with cartel activity,
Great. There is
and
so there is
they
a
don't
gap
pay very
there.
much.
So there is a gap there. Can we
But that is
diplomatically
not-
make that gap smaller so that they'll have
That
less
is not
need?
the responsibility of the United States to take care of. That's their responsibility.
Then we're gonna keep arming the border, and we're gonna keep the concertina wire. We're gonna keep building walls. We're gonna keep shooting them as they try and come here for a better life. That's
That last one, the
end
shooting
that you're
them,
coming
I
to.
don't think we shoot them.
That's the end
but,
you were going to get to. That if
I don't think we shoot them, but yes, we should be. If we've told them, here's how you can come in if you want to, don't come in otherwise, and they try to come in anyway, you have to keep them out.
we arrest them. I'm okay with that. I'm saying that there should be a border patrol that does
So
that
what
sort
is
of thing.
what is your whole
Make the legal
opposition
pathways.
to putting up physical barriers then?
They're expensive and they don't work.
Sure
They're
they do.
expensive. No, they don't. They're expensive. They don't work. They are wildly expensive to keep the concrete walls that Donald Trump talked about. Would be wildly expensive. He wants them armed. He wants them the border patrol there staring south all day long. We would have to pay them. We would have to upkeep these things. They are bad at doing that job. He over exaggerates how good the wall is. The wall does not work. It is a gigantic waste of time. Instead of building that wall, spend that money on hiring social workers to go to these ports of entry and get these people signed up properly and set up properly.
If the physical barriers don't work, why is everyone so butthurt about Texas putting up physical barriers?
Because the physical barrier is harming people. It's not doing the thing you think it's doing. It's not. The physical barrier in Texas is not preventing people from coming across the border.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because I read about it and talk about it and think about it and look at the news. The majority of people who come here go through the ports of entry, or they fly on a plane on a visa and then overstay their visa. I mean, that's the vast majority of people that are illegal in the country. So the border wire, the concertina wire, does not do that. All it does is harm the people.
I don't think it was even up long enough for us to know that. Do we have any statistics showing immigration before and after the wire went up?
It's only been a couple of weeks, so I don't think so.
Yeah, so I don't think we do.
What I'm
So
trying
how do you
not
know it
to
didn't work?
Because it is an inwarification. Is there a word for that? It is an armament. It is an increase in hostilities. I'm trying to decrease
from
hostilities.
0 to 1?
Yes.
Out of 10?
That's still an increase, isn't it? Going from 0 to
So
1 is
what?
still an increase. I don't think that's a good idea. Now, why are we upset about the thing? So you're getting into a thing that we hadn't even talked about yet. The wire went up. The Supreme Court said you're not allowed to do that. Texas refused to take it down, and they're blocking the federal agents from taking it down. This is part of the problem. We haven't even started on the fucking Civil War yet. We've just been arguing the past 20 fucking years of immigration issue. The Supreme Court says take it down. Should Texas take it down? What did they say, PoPog? They said you're not allowed to put it up. They didn't say take it down. You're right. Chad is correct. The Supreme Court said Texas is not allowed to put that up.
I wonder why.
Well, because it's not their job. To the federal government go the federal things. To the state go the state things. That wire would be a federal thing. It's that the Fed is allowed to take it down. Right. The Supreme Court has decided you're not allowed to put that up. The federal government is allowed to take it down. The state government is preventing the federal government from taking it down. All right. Do you want to bring PoPog on for a couple of minutes?
Sure.
Okay. We have a chatter who has been very cool and in the waiting room, and we are going to drag him in. PoPog, you ready? You got your microphone? You got everything good to go? He's been playing the game properly, and I'm happy to bring him in. He's ready. I'm going to drag him down. All right, Mr. PoPog, you're on.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you. You sounded good.
Awesome. Great. All right. I'm just going to explain it real quick. The basics is this is a early decision. The case is still pending. But so the Supreme Court, so Texas put up the wire, federal government lawsuits, the appeals court, I think it's the appeals court, whatever, the current court that it's at, put in a preliminary judgment that the feds can't take the wire down while the court case is still pending, right? And the Supreme Court overturned that judgment. And the basic reason is these preliminary judgments, they happen, at the beginning of the cases while the case is still ongoing. And the purpose of them is basically to make sure that the injured party doesn't get more injured. So it's pretty common to have these judgments go in the opposite direction of the actual end decision of the case. And the basics that typically decided it is if you can resolve the injury with money, then you always just decide it in favor of the party who's going to be injured more. Because it's okay to keep injuring someone if you can just pay them money at the end of it. But if it's like, oh, my house is actually going to burn down if we don't shut down the gas lines, then the court's going to be like, you have to shut down the gas lines then, because we can't just rebuild this house, right? Like there's pressure in there. But if they're like, the house is only worth money, then it's like, we don't care if it burns, you'll just get a payout at the end of this. So that's one of the bigger parts of how the courts make these kinds of preliminary decisions is the injury remediable after the fact. And the court, I think in this case, because we don't actually have a textual decision from the Supreme Court, we just have, we reversed the lower court, it's decided 5-4, no reason why. So we don't have their actual reasoning as to why, but my guess, based on my limited understanding of the case so far, is that it's the federal government has a better case for remediation, even if the feds are wrong, right? So even if Texas wins in the end, it's like from a legal perspective, it's easier to say that Texas can put it up again after, but at the moment, some third parties like the Mexicans who are running into the razor wire might be getting injured in a non-remediable way that the court can't really correct after the fact.
And okay, so the razor wire is a heightening of that damage, right?
That's my understanding,
compared
and
to something
it's
like
kind
a
of a
wall.
guess.
A
So-
razor wire is more damaging than would be a wall.
Well, so the basic idea is that, like, let's say that Texas has a right to kick out all of the illegal immigrants, right? And that's what the Supreme Court is going to decide 3 months from now, right? So even if that's the case, the feds theoretically know where all of the illegal immigrants are. They're all going to show up to court, so Texas can just kick them out 3 months from now. So the fact that they remain in the U.S. for 3 extra illegal months is the court doesn't care. The court sees that as a totally remediable injury. But if some random Mexican walks into the razor wire and gets cut and bleeds out, right? That the court can't bring them back to life.
There's no way to undo that damage, right?
Yes. So
and
that the
you're
court
right.
considers those two possibilities and decides, oh, okay, we will go at the beginning of the case because we don't know which way it's going to go. We're going to choose the more undoable one.
Okay.
I just saw here that the oral arguments are to be heard on February 7th.
Okay.
So,
And the very tiny details that you're mentioning are important, but
they're not
that's going to
tiny
be
details at all.
lost. Of course,
it's a
they
big
are.
deal.
No, they're being lost by people who are hyping it up. By me too. I'm hyping up what happens if the federal government tries to remove that razor wire and the state government tries to stop them. What happens in that situation? Let's say February goes the Fed's way, and the federal agents are trying to remove that razor wire, and the state tries to stop them. What happens? That's dangerous. That's wild. That's some weird shit. That's not going to go well.
It's very complicated at the very least.
And
I'm pretty sure that's what PoPog was saying. That's
Yes.
why the Supreme Court ordered no more razor wire,
okay.
because it is dangerous,
Well,
right?
Okay, great.
They
What
haven't
happens
ordered
with
no more
Texas?
razor wire.
They haven't ordered
They've
no
just
more razor
ordered it's okay that the feds can come in and take it, right? So,
Oh,
which
gotcha.
once again is also not the same thing as that Texas isn't allowed to stop them. So to do that, you need an injunction against Texas. So Texas can put up border walls that the feds can't go towards the border, right? So like a border wall for the border. And the court hasn't decided whether or not Texas can't do that. So at the moment, theoretically, the supremacy clause just means that the feds kind of can. But Texas is, that's what the Texas governor's letter is invoking the 10th Amendment to sort of see like, well, that's why they're using the word invasion. I mentioned this earlier. The reason they're using the word invasion is specifically because the Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, I think, he says it in the letter, has this thing of like, basically that Congress has the authorities to do all these things, but the states have this one sort of exception, which is if they are, quote, actually invaded, then they can do war, basically, is the main thing. The main power is do war type things. And so that clause has been previously tested, but in the opposite direction. And so Texas's argument is a little novel here, because the previous tests of it were known as the Civil War, and it did not go great. But those were testing whether states can ignore laws that Congress passed and say, no, we're going to do it anyway. But this is technically the opposite, where the state is saying, hey, Congress passed these laws requiring the Biden administration to perform specific actions regarding immigration, and they're failing to perform it, so we're going to ignore their authority and perform the actions on their behalf.
Right, and that's where you get your compact with the states kind of thing.
Ooh, that's actually a really interesting case there. I'm gonna have to look more into this. It was only brought to my attention last night, so.
I personally think Texas is going to lose that argument. I think it's novel, interesting, but I'm sure that what's his face, the Clarence Thomas will think that it's a very interesting, and he'll write some really thorough opinion on it. But it will be, I expect this to be like a 7-2 decision of like.
Okay, that they don't have the.
Yeah, I mean, well, so.
But that's why they're using the word invasion.
The way it's always been understood by me is that Congress passes the laws, and then it's up to the executive branch to actually execute the laws and put them in action.
Yeah, and
And so if
theoretically
the
they can just
executive
choose
branch
whatever.
chooses not to do that,
They've
then typically they just get away with it, and
yeah,
the
they've
law exists, but there's no enforcement of it.
right, and then I think that's
And so
why
Texas
you
is saying,
choose to
"Hey,
have
you're
them.
not enforcing the law. We're going to do it for you." And that's the argument that's being made here.
Yeah,
Is
basically.
yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. I mean, because technically speaking, the president is in violation or rather, the executive branch is in violation of their duty by not enforcing the law that has been
Yeah,
passed
I
by the
don't
But
legislative
think they
branch.
are.
they
I think they
technically
choose.
are. So they
Yes.
technically are in violation, but the problem is there's no penalty for that violation.
Exactly. There is no penalty
So
for that violation. Right.
it's
They're
as
in
if there's a
violation, but
speed
there's
limit with
no
no fine, right? So like if
exactly.
there's a speed limit with no
There's
fine,
no speed trap,
there's
no
no
police
speed limit.
officers. Yeah.
And in doing so, wouldn't I mean the executive branch gets to choose how vehemently they enforce those laws.
For most things, yes. There are specific things where Congress puts in place essentially mandatory obligations that if they don't do, they basically can't do anything else, right? So there are sometimes Congress puts in specific things that prevent them from partially implementing a law, basically. It's like you either have to do the full thing or not at all. And immigration is one of those that has some things in it like that and other things that are not. So immigration law is obviously extremely complicated and dense. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. I cannot advise you on any immigration law. But
I often
Yeah,
feel like a
this
lawyer.
Max,
I identify as one.
a lot of this is like that whole Andrew Jackson quote from way back in the day.
oh yeah, he has made
You
his
know,
decision. Let him enforce it.
Yeah,
yes, that is
let
what
him
this
enforce it.
sounds like. And Texas, and it feels sometimes like the executive branch is not enforcing the laws that they're supposed to. And now Texas is like, all right,
And
well,
that
we're gonna
actually
enforce
is
it.
why the House is not in favor of the bill, is because the bill itself, you misread part of it there, where you said like it puts this limit where it's like, oh, if there's more than 4,000 crossings a day, then we have to do something. No, it says
No?
if there's more than 4,000 crossings a day, we can do something.
And that
Right? It puts
is
a
a Biden
lower limit.
It says mandatory
a presidential
daily
authority.
crossings. That
Authority,
authority would become mandatory. Oh, the authority would
Yeah.
become mandatory. The
Authority
action,
becomes mandatory.
the
Yes,
action
it's
would become
very
mandatory.
tricky.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I hate
it goes back to
mandatory in this phrase.
exactly what I was talking about earlier about, do I actually trust Biden to use those powers if granted to him? And also, what else is in this deal that is being given up in return for creating this authority that Biden's not going to use? It goes right back to the Reagan immigration thing, where Reagan granted amnesty in return for certain border security and penalties on companies and whatnot that never got enforced. So
And that doesn't surprise me.
how do we trust Biden to actually, use the authority that's granted him?
So it's part of the reason why Republicans are so in favor of a wall, is because while walls do tend to be of limited efficacy, they are of passive efficacy, right? A large part of their efficacy is purely passive. So it doesn't matter if Biden gets into office, the wall is there, so he can't, like, him having agents do less, right? Which is his current policy. Is to not. You said that we're doing all these arrests. We're kind of doing arrests, right? The arrests that we're doing are, the Republican term for is catch and release, right? Where they're given a court date and then just released into the interior, and those court dates are like seriously 9 years away. It's a kind of fucked up scene.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. The Border Patrol agents reported on record of 302,000 encounters with migrants over the southern border last month.
A lot of
those
people, man.
encounters, 249,000 were recorded between ports of entry. So there's 249,000 that have come between the ports that the wall could have, maybe, if it were not easily
mitigated in
jumped
some
over,
sense.
it could have mitigated that. But we got these guys. That's 250,000 that we've done the good thing for. We've done the right thing. We put them in that court system. We want them in that court system. If I thought the wall was monetarily viable, I would be more okay with it, but I don't think it is. These 250 people were caught. we can't know the number of people that didn't get caught. Was there 7 million that didn't get caught? If that were the case, if we had some sort of evidence towards that 7 million came across and 250,000 were caught and done the catch and release thing, I'd be like, okay, let's build a wall. But I'm willing to bet it's a much lower number than the 250,000. How many snuck in?
Theoretically, we have that number to a reasonable degree because we have a pretty good camera system now that patrols the border, and I don't know if those count as encounters for that or not, though.
Okay.
So,
Thomas, do you think that the number of people that we didn't catch is higher or lower than 250,000?
That we didn't catch.
Yeah, they snuck by.
that we didn't have encounters at all
We didn't
with.
have
So,
an
like,
encounter with.
I'm
if it's
gonna
higher
go
than total,
probably
be
lower.
like 500K
I mean,
then?
Right, and if it's lower than 250,000,
so
I think we're fine. We don't need.
Hold
a
on. Your
wall.
question is: we caught 250,000 people.
Yeah.
Do I think that there were more than 500,000 people
Well, no,
that
I
crossed
mean,
the border?
250,000. Let's work with that
500,000.
number.
No, but it's 500,000 total because it'd be the 250 that we found plus 250 plus or minus, right? Or is it more than 250 we didn't find, bring it to 500 plus, or is it less, bringing it to under 500?
Right. So 250,000 were caught and released. How many didn't get caught? Do you think?
Oh boy.
More than 250
I
or
don't
less?
have the information to make a guess like that.
I'm guessing that it's less than 250,000. At which point, I think the wall is unnecessary. If most of the people are being caught by our guys, and then given that court date, so that they can do the paperwork properly, the system is working. And who's telling you that the system isn't working? Right-wing people in the House. Donald Trump is telling you that the system isn't working.
We have a number here, doesn't tell us anything about what exactly is being recorded, how people are being caught, how long they're expected to be here after being caught. Because they're caught. Our guys say hi, they take their information down, give them a court date. So what?
So what? That's the system. The system is working. I mean, the system is functioning properly. Good job, Joe Biden.
This part of the system
here's the other problem,
right? Like
is
the other parts might not be.
If it's a long wait for the court date, and then also how many show up for their court date versus just staying in the country,
then
does this actually work?
If we make it work, if we want it to work, you're suggesting that it needs more judges, more tracking, and more money, and I'm on board with that. You would not have that if you built a worthless wall. The things that would make this system better.
I don't think that these walls are worthless.
I think they are. I think they're a severe waste of money, and that waste of money could be spent on better things, like tracking those people, making sure they go to those court dates, training the people on how to.
But here's the thing, though, is there are other countries that have erected walls because of high immigration, illegal immigration.
Right,
and
they're also
turns out that those walls actually worked.
If you've got one that worked, I would look into it, but I don't know of any off the top of my head. Which country was that?
I mean, I hear they have a great one in China.
Great, there's a great one in China. It's true.
Great one. Israel actually has like 2 or 3 walls, and they all
they're
work.
Doing well. They're doing great over there. Everything over there is going just perfect.
I wouldn't say that that's a function of the walls being bad. I mean, the location they're in is not ideal.
Shitty
but
Mongolians.
Prior to having a wall, they had very high rates of people crossing their border illegally, and also much higher rates of terrorist activity. And then they put the wall up, and guess what? There are much lower rates of the terrorist activity in the area that they were concerned about where they put the wall up.
In Israel, you're talking about?
In Israel,
but
the
wall
that,
implemented some more significant policies in Israel than just the wall.
Yeah, there's a
kind
lot going on there.
I know.
It's incredibly complicated, especially when you start bringing Israel in. I mean, West Germany had a wall, and we all hated that one. I don't think it's worth a damn. I think if you've had some sort of way to measure that this 250,000, if we're stopping and catching 250,000, releasing them with the court date, and the court date is 9 years out, and we don't have enough judges, then you need to spend money on that. And if you're spending money on that, and if you're spending money on the wall, you'll have less for the judges. You know, if you spend money on the wall, you have less for the social workers that could be there. You have less for job training, placement, and tracking these people.
Another country that put a wall up was Hungary.
Well, they're fascists, so I don't like them.
They went from having 400,000 border crossings in 2015 to only 1,400 border crossings in 2017 because they built a wall in 2016.
So the number's cut down by 3/4.
391,000 to 1,400 is like
Oh, okay.
99%.
I thought you said 100,000. Sorry. Okay, so
Yeah, I think you did
99%.
say
You're right.
100,000. I'm sorry. I definitely misspoke
Okay.
then.
Okay, so it went down 99%. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do they have companies in the country of Hungary that are picking
Does
these people
Hungary
up?
have companies?
Companies that
Yeah.
are. I mean,
Do they have labor need for
Do they have
those people?
Do they have companies in there that are picking these people up secretly, flying them across the border, hiring them, paying them, and then sending them back? I bet they don't. I bet they don't
have no idea,
a gigantic labor. I don't think they have a giant pile of labor that needs to be done by these people.
I mean, you gotta. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, though. 400K, 2015.
But they don't tell you exactly what kind of wall it is, right? That's one of the
oops.
criticisms of the walls in the proposed walls in the U.S. is that they're largely unmanned walls, and manned walls are much more successful than unmanned walls.
The Hungarian government's wall is 110 miles long and it's 13 feet high. It's got razor wire along the top of it.
Razor wire makes me think it probably is a much more manned border, because that's a relatively short border in comparison.
Oh yeah,
I
mean, our Mexican border is huge.
Which is why I keep saying it's just cheaper if we go back and take all of Mexico. We did it once, we can do it again.
Oh boy.
Exactly. Make it the 51st state.
I mean, it's going to be more than one state. Mexico is composed of like 10 states.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
That's something we never. 32 states. Jesus, they have a lot of states. Why do we not call it the United States of Mexico? Come on, guys.
Excellent question. Although I feel like California should be like 2 or 3 states also.
Yeah, I think we want to make this better. I want to improve it, and I don't think a wall is going to help it. I think it's too expensive, and it's not going to do any good. So what else were we going to point at to this? So with the Republicans, I think the House is being shady. They asked for things. They've been given. Biden has said yes, and now they're saying no. If the Republicans,
they haven't said yes to the things that the House has asked for, though. The House asked for the Remain in Mexico policy is the main thing that the House has been asking for a long time, basically since Biden got in office and undid the Remain in Mexico. The House wants to codify that into law. Is their like biggest ask. They have 2 more, but I don't remember what they were. But he put out the House guy, whatever his stupid name is, he put out some list of like 3 things. He's like, these are the 3 things that we want, and if we can do that, we can get a deal done.
And if Biden gave it to him, he'd shift again. I think he would move farther to the right and be like, okay, great. Even if he gave this guy everything he wants, the guy would ask for more. Biden gives him an inch, and he'll demand a mile.
I'm sure that all politicians would do that probably, but I can't know for certain until they do, right? Like, that's what the left does on every issue, the right does it on every issue, but they look bad when they do it, right? And here, there is a split between what the Senate's Republicans are willing to accept versus what the House Republicans are willing to accept. So
I like Remain in Mexico.
Opinions.
If Remain in Mexico was still around, I'd be a lot happier with this policy.
Yeah, it's very Remain in Mexico is very popular amongst Republicans.
The big problem with the whole like catch and release business is that half of the immigrants don't even show up for their court date. They just stick around.
Well,
so we need someone to track them, and
then it's on us
to bring them back.
Have to go find them and send them back.
But it's a farce, right? Because all of the courts, like, okay, so if you look at the majority of the people crossing, right, they are not valid asylum seekers. They are economic migrants, right? Everybody knows this. Everybody is like, sure, there are some who are legitimate asylum seekers, but that percentage is way smaller. And the difference in the Remain in Mexico policy is that it creates a negative economic incentive for people who don't have valid asylum claims, because it's if you have a valid asylum claim, you want there to be no one else in line waiting for the judges, right? You want you to be at the front of the line. You go in, you get your court case heard, you granted asylum because you have a valid case, and you're good. But if you have a whole bunch of other people who are literally just like, wow, I heard there's money in America, I want to go there. I know I'm not being, persecuted or anything, but I'll go in and I'll just say the word asylum, and now I get to stand in the same line as everybody else. And that's that's one of the things that the Remain in Mexico policy sort of successfully does, is it creates enough of a harsher negative economic incentive for the people who have no case. Because if you just have to sit in Mexico, wait in line, talk to a judge, and then they say, no, you literally have, like, you come from a relatively wealthy area of your country that has no hardships in it. Obviously, you just want a good job here, which is better than in your country, but that's not a valid asylum claim. And then they get kicked out. So that it's like, if you have no chance of success, then people just don't do it. But the people who theoretically have valid asylum claims then essentially get a smaller line. So it's like positive towards the real asylum seekers and negative towards the fake asylum seekers. And Remain in Mexico is one option for that. There's another proposed option that I've heard, which is basically like create a new class of sort of summary judgments, where it's like at the beginning of your, like, you can make the asylum claim, but you have to make a good showing to this initial, like, clerk, basically. And if the clerk says no, then you get kicked out, and you can still make the asylum claim from Mexico, because you can always make an asylum claim from Mexico, but you don't get the initial in. So, like, creating this clerkship position, which is like a first line of defense, and that's like a partial Remain in Mexico, because the people who have valid asylum claims get to go to the clerk, and the clerk says, yeah, that seems good enough, come on in and wait in line for your actual court.
That sounds like a very interesting compromise.
And there's room for compromise on that. I would be on board for figuring out what those rules are, weighing and measuring all of the little intricacies of that thing. You know who doesn't like to weigh and measure things? Donald Trump. He does not like to weigh and measure complicated things. A bad border deal is far worse than no border deal in his own stupid truth social things. And this is the politics of the situation. The legalities and the what passes through Congress is one thing, but the politics is here. This is where the politics is. A bad border deal is far worse than no border. A bad border deal is far worse than no border deal. I can't do a Trump voice, but that is where he's at. That is where the majority of the people who follow him are. So if
wow, it's in all caps, so he probably did actually write that one.
It's super important. So even if Biden agrees to their inch to what's this guy's name, Johnson, the guy in the House, Mike Johnson, even if he agrees to the things that Mike Johnson asked for, Mike Johnson will extend what he asks for. He will ask for more. He's been given an inch, he will ask for a mile. Biden will give him the mile. He'll ask for 10 miles.
Do you have something to evidence that for Mike Johnson specifically? Because I mean, I know there are other Republicans like who I would say that's much more validly claimed about, like Lindsey Graham, I would say that about for a large percentage of the things, but I know almost nothing about this guy.
That's what they're doing now. I mean, he said that this border deal that is about to pass through the Senate is dead on arrival. He's saying it.
I mean, yeah, but that's because it's not his. So, like I said, in terms of what the House has been asking for, the House has been asking specifically for Remain in Mexico basically since it got repealed or whatever, executive actioned away. And there were two other things. And I mean, he's only been the House chairman, whatever, for like a couple months. But the previous guy, too, had a similar list that... So I'm not willing to say that he is as an individual as much of a, like, I don't know, border pusher or like a goalpost mover.
I mean, he's the Speaker of the House. That's his entire job, is to be the goalpost mover. Say, hey, here's where we are. Well, to be the person who gets his people to the goal.
I mean,
so he's going to say, hey, here's where we want. Here's what we want. Here's what we're going to do to get it.
His job is to set the goalposts, but moving the goalposts continuously, particularly in an election year, like makes you and your party look like a bunch of jackasses, right?
To me and you, but not to people who read Truth Social.
Yeah, but I'm an independent. My vote is the one that matters.
To
it's all the people in the middle that, like,
and that might
everyone knows that there's 40% of the country on either side that's going to vote the same way regardless, right?
Okay. And
it's that 10% or that 20% that's in the very center that they try to move to the left or to the right every election season, just enough to win.
It's why what Joe Manchin and Mitt Romney ticket would demolish these two candidates.
What party would they run for?
There's some third independent party that's theoretically gotten on a whole bunch of the ballots already with no candidates lined up. That they're supposed to announce the candidates. And everyone thought early on, there's like, oh, maybe they actually, because they said that they'd gotten some Republican and some Democrat to do it, and everyone's like, is it Joe Manchin, Mitt Romney? please.
I could see the run towards the middle being a good plan right now because everything is shockingly separated. I could see somebody running that way. The two of them get together and say, "Hey, we're going to be in the middle, and we're going to make politics boring again." I think a lot of people would shift and go towards them. I think you're right that it could be valuable. Do I want that? Not exactly. I mean, I want leftists, but that's me. I want a tougher Biden. I want a Biden who doesn't give them that inch. But I mean, that's just my opinion. Okay, so the point of all this is because I think that I'm worried that there is a not civil war, not full-on civil war coming. I think federal troops might try and remove that concertina wire, and the staties might stand in their way. Do you guys think that would happen?
I think it's unlikely for Biden to actually go through with that action. But if
you don't think Biden would do the removal?
Yes, I think Biden would just wait for the courts, basically, because I mean Biden's kind of a passive guy, right? Like Biden's kind of a methodical, like let's go do the like for all the people on the right who call him a fascist gun grabber. It's like, I mean, I'm sure he does want to, but he's a slow old man.
Yeah. So because he won't do that first step, then the second step of civil war won't happen. I could comprehend that. Thomas, what are you thinking?
I mean, even if he did do the first step, I don't think that the Texas law enforcement or whatever would actually stand in their way.
Those state cops, right? It wouldn't stand and block the way. Okay.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't happen. The wire would either be taken down or the first action never happens in the first place, and no fighting or standoffs ever really occur, and everything ends up getting decided in court in a few months.
Okay.
Pretty much it.
Trump calls on all willing states to send National Guard soldiers to Texas.
They ain't gonna do it.
I don't think they will. I mean, there've been a few states who have said, okay, yeah, we support you, Texas, we like you, high five, and a few Republican governors who are giving them the thumbs up. But do you think any actual National Guard soldiers go down there?
No. No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
I hope not.
I hope not too. I hope they don't. But if some of them, if any governor, I mean, let's pick one at random, Kansas. Kansas governor says, okay, yeah, I'm sending 300 of our National Guard to stand in front of the wire so the feds can't take it down. That's an escalation, right?
That sure would be an escalation.
It would be an escalation, yeah.
Very bad.
It's definitely not going to happen.
Oklahoma governor on Friday said he would absolutely plans to send National Guard soldiers to Texas. We've already started putting the numbers together.
How much methamphetamine is in Oklahoma right now?
Enough to get these guys jacked up.
Even if they sent even if he did send National Guard people to Texas, they would never actually do anything while they were there.
Okay.
They would go and they'd be able to show that they sent the numbers there, but then nothing would happen.
Because it's theater for them, right?
That is theater. Yes.
Okay.
This right here is all theater. Yeah.
Okay. I hope
the idea of sending
theater.
The idea of other states sending National Guard soldiers over to Texas and then there being a big standoff at the border, like none of that's gonna happen. If the soldiers do go, it's all theater.
It's all theater. Okay. I hope it stays that way. Joe Biden can and should take over the Texas National Guard.
Jesus.
Oh my goodness gracious.
If Greg Abbott is going to use his National Guard to flout the Constitution, the president should do as Dwight D. Eisenhower once did and nationalize the state emergency agency entirely. So this is what the most these are the wildest headlines. I went and intentionally putting on a show here to grab the wildest headlines. So what do we think about this? Greg Abbott says
I think that
ignore the Supreme Court.
Oh yeah, hilarious.
That's a good picture, Jack.
You know, the only thing that it reminds me of is the Deal With It meme where the fucking glasses come down
Should
onto the
I-
dog's face.
Should I save this and use it as a thumbnail? And I'll turn the eyes red or something like that. I'll change it up a little bit. It's a good photo.
You gotta make the glasses drop down if you're gonna do it.
I'll leave the glasses. I'll make a second pair of glasses fall on top of the first pair of glasses and turn the eyes
There you
red.
go. Perfect.
That's what I'll do. So, do we think that this is going to happen?
No.
No? Okay.
I could see this happening. I could see this happening in a more legalese sense of like he just does it and orders them to all go home, and then puts the border patrol goes and takes the razor wire away. Like I could see
Okay.
this happening, and then he's like, and now I have unnationalized it. Right? I mean,
Yeah, I could see that happen. That's the most reasonable list of things to do. Would he have to prosecute or charge the governor of Texas with something first?
no, he can just executive order this. Apparently, reading through the Eisenhower
Yeah, I was about to
administration doing this.
look that up too.
And it's basically that in U.S. Code Title III, Chapter 4, the president just has the authority to do this for any function through which that they have, through anything that the federal government and the executive branch already has the power to make people arbitrarily do. It sort of has the power to just take state actors in that and make them do it. Apparently is what it's a delegation of functions.
Okay.
I think this would end up turning into a whole new legal battle too that I don't think anyone wants.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone will do it. That's why my
I could
answer
see
just
this
a hard
going wrong
no.
as well. I don't think this would go well as either. This could again be this is an escalation from the other side. So if the right escalates by sending Oklahoma troops to Texas and Kansas escalates by sending troops to Texas, the left to Joe Biden from his position as being in charge would escalate by taking control of those things. And if they really don't want to be under his control, they flout that too. They ignore that. They ignore those orders. I mean, they're already ignoring things that if they're ignoring things the Supreme Court says, wouldn't they just ignore the things that the president says?
So here is a specific thing that would make this legal challenge basically absurd for anyone to try and say like, no, they can not do that. The enlistment oath that every National Guard member says is, I, PoPog, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, blah, 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 and I will obey the orders of the President of the United States. So help me God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty hard one to argue when every single person in the Texas National Guard has explicitly said that. Not doing it would be treason. When you make that oath and you fail to obey that oath in a way that is directly opposed to the interests of the United States as defined by the executive branch, that's treason. That is punishable by death.
And
My argument was going to be
Mhm.
a lot more along the lines of, these organizations, Texas National Guard is made up of people, and so is Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the federal agents and whatnot. Everyone's going to make, hopefully, a relatively rational choice, and tensions are definitely not high enough that an American citizen who is a member of the National Guard is about to fire on an American citizen who is a member of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It doesn't make sense. Like, everyone recognizes that we're
pretty
generally
unlikely,
on the same
especially-
side. Like,
Especially when they're both Republicans.
exactly. Like, it's not happening. The people, the fact that, I mean, if you took a very impersonal and like view of God approach, the way that, like, if you were looking at something like you were playing Civilization 6 or something like that, then yeah, this is a scenario that could happen. But it's just not. The whole, it's all run by people, and the conflict is not happening.
okay, I hope you're right. I hope that it doesn't lead to conflict. There are an awful lot of people who are suggesting it is. Maybe they're just trying to make a fun YouTube show, and maybe I'm one of them. I don't want a civil war, but Alex Jones is talking about it, folks. He's all over the road telling us that the Biden administration is gonna push this stuff, and they're gonna start cracking skulls down there. So the Texas military is gonna have to take care of them, and he does that so that he can make more money. I get it.
I'll be right back. I need to use the bathroom.
Okay, Cool. So I am, worried that that's going to happen or that other people are going to try and push it. We covered that. Uh, this is just what I get when I cruise Twitter. Tim Pool says Biden is a Nazi, and then an actual Nazi says, no, he's not. If he was, we would be supporting him.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
So this is good. This is great because Groypers, they are definitely Nazis. So they like that.
When someone says I'm a Nazi, you should take them at their word.
Believe them, and then when they tell you who isn't, they have some understanding of who is and who isn't, a little bit better than Tim Pool. So that's fun.
I will say half of Nazis is calling each other fake Nazis though, because they're not Nazi enough.
And feds. So you even within their own little communities, they're trying to suss out the feds, the secret people who are actually working for the FBI, trying to trap all the Nazis. So it's a very wild place to be. I've never tried to secretly infiltrate any of them, but I've watched people who have and read about people who haven't. It's very fun that they try and suss out the fakers. Let's see what's going on in chat. Disabled veteran. I'm aware that Hawaii has its own constitution. Okay, cool. Every state has a constitution. Disabled veteran, all of them do.
Yeah, he's saying about before. He's making the argument that Texas is unique because it was an independent country before, but it's not unique in that sense. One, Hawaii had its own constitution before, the Republic of Hawaii, but two, all of the original colonies were independent nations and created a coalition of states. So the original 13 colonies would also be independent states.
Right. So I don't think that. Texas doesn't have the right to secede. Every time I hear a Texan explain that, or even some Texas Republican lawmakers will suggest that, I go and I read, and legal scholars say that they're not allowed to, because of the Civil War. They were before the Civil War.
But they have a thing where they're allowed to split. I feel like that they still have some weird thing.
I've read that was true before the Civil War, but afterward, not any longer. Let me poke around on the internet, but I've found it in the past, and it suggested that they're not allowed to after the Civil War.
I'm back.
Maybe Thomas knows. Thomas, can you tell us if Texas is allowed to split into multiple states?
Oh, into multiple states. I thought you meant secede from the Union. That's what
No. That there's something that I think that they are allowed to subdivide, but I might be completely pulling this out of my ass. So
it's the first result on DuckDuckGo when I start looking for Texas split into states. So I mean, let's see, what do the old liberals at Snopes have to say? Mixture. There's a clause in the document annexing Texas to the United States, allowing for Texas to be divided up into as many as 5 different states, but it requires the permission of Congress. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, Congress can't agree on what's for lunch. So in chat, disabled veteran, the United States refuses to defend Texas. Texas will have no choice but to leave the U.S. No, that would be illegal for them to do, and in doing so, they would lose a lot of federal support. And I don't think most of the Texas population would want that. I think most of the Texas population would not be okay with that. If most people are independent, as we were discussing earlier, those people don't want to abandon the United States. They don't want to completely lose their Social Security that they've been working towards. How many people in Texas are on Social Security? Because that stops if they secede. And then all
of the free trade stops.
All of the free trade stops. All of the military. They probably would just arrest the governor and then reinstate Texas as a state. And we're
you didn't spell secede as succeed, did you?
I am typing and reading and hosting a web show.
I do it every single time.
Is it one?
No, it's S-E. It's
S-E-C-E-D-E.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
don't feel bad. I literally do it every time.
And Ceci. Yeah, you're right. I'm under a lot of stress here. You know how complicated this process is, especially for me since I'm so stupid. If you're blind to the amount of fentanyl coming to the country, I can't help that. If you're blind to how it's getting here, I can't help that. Disabled veteran. Man.
Disabled veteran. How is it getting here? How is it getting here, disabled veteran?
it's getting here through the ports of entry, through legally
Yeah,
people
it's through the
carrying
ports of
it.
entry.
The
Because fentanyl
Americans,
is really small.
the American people go to Mexico, pick it up, bring it back with them, and then sell it for profit, money. And they do that because it's easier than working a job. There's a high risk, but there's a high reward.
That is a job, you know.
It's a job.
I mean, it's...
It's just we don't like it generally. So I don't think that they're going to secede. Then all we have is people on the internet talking about it, which is a thing I do. Anything else to say about this? Thomas, you were gone to the bathroom, but I think this is hilarious.
Well,
Oh, are you not watching? Sorry.
oh, what the fuck? That's so silly.
I think that makes me happy that Tim Pool can be just proven wrong so often.
Oh, that's one of Nick Fuentes' dudes.
Nick Fuentes fans are called groypers, yes, and they
Yeah.
willingly accept being Nazis, and they talk about how great it is and how awesome they think that it would be. And so when Tim Pool says, "Hey, that's a Nazi," they're like, "Nah, he's not."
I don't agree with their stances, but I gotta say, that whole Kanye West thing was funny as fuck.
Kanye is just special. He needs lots of lithium.
Only
He needs
Kanye
lithium.
had waited a couple months, then he would have had so many more people supporting him.
Oh man, that fucking Alex Jones interview is gonna go down
The
in
mask.
history. It's
Ugh.
the one time that Alex Jones was made uncomfortable by somebody else.
Cheering on. Hitler.
I gotta go back and watch that again sometime. That was fucking amazing.
Let's see. Disabled veteran says it's okay because Trump will win the election and fix all these problems. I don't think he's going to win, and I don't think he has a solution to any of these problems. Disabled veteran. I really don't think he does.
I think he's going to win, and I think he doesn't have a solution to all these problems.
I think he's gonna win and probably not do anything, just like the first term, unfortunately.
Okay.
Which I will say, some of it's not his fault because the legislative branch didn't actually do anything either, which is what you need for real change to happen. I like his Supreme Court picks, and then I also
I like two of his Supreme Court picks.
I definitely think that his the way he did things in the executive branch was probably better than what we've got right now by a lot. But yeah,
What do you think was better in the way that he ran the executive branch?
we enforced our laws more.
I think he just ran it the way he runs a company. Just tell people what to do, and then when they don't do it, fire them or yell
You
at them.
replace them. Yes, that is what you should be doing if people are not
That's-
doing their job.
Authoritarianism. That's dictatorship. That's not
No,
lawful.
that's management.
And if you tell a lawyer to do a thing, and that lawyer tells you that's illegal, we cannot do that. Because that's what most of the time happened. He would tell his guys to do a thing that he wanted them to do because he heard that it was a good idea, and they would be like, "No, sir, we can't do that. That's unlawful."
I mean, to some extent, it's okay to do that because lawyers aren't perfect, right? You can be like, no, I think you're wrong. I want a second opinion, just like you can get from your doctor. Getting a second opinion from a lawyer is valid, right?
Mhm,
Not, lawyers are frequently wrong.
Mhm.
I will say when it's like 3 lawyers, you probably should stop at that.
Mhm.
You know, if 3 doctors tell you have cancer, probably should start doing chemo.
You probably have cancer. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Thomas, yeah, you said that the legislature was against him. That doesn't surprise me. Republican lawmakers don't want to change things. They don't want to make things different. They don't want to upgrade things. They want to do as little as possible. They want to sit completely still and name a few post offices, choose the name for a few roads, then go home. They're wieners. They don't want to do difficult things.
I mean, the fact is that things have been getting progressively more polarized since like the 90s. So, or at least, you know, in my experience,
Bring
I
back
can't
the old
speak
filibuster
for that.
rules.
Make politics boring
Yeah.
again.
I definitely would say that the old filibuster rules probably should come back.
Like, get rid of the 2 tracks. Get rid of it so you can't have 2 tracks of legislation. Make it so you have to stand there and shout if you really want to filibuster it. It's legitimately, this is one of the actual systemic things that have caused so much more polarization. Because if you have 2 tracks of legislation, you can hold up one legislation, but you're not holding up your friends. You're only holding up your enemies. But if you only have 1 track and you're like, okay, I'm going to stop this legislation so no one can pass anything, you're making everyone mad, which makes you an asshole, and people will force you to compromise and will get left and right compromising more with each other and not being so like, well, I'm just going to stick to the furthest position I can.
And I'm just going to go ahead and point the finger. The people that use the nuclear option first, the left.
Well, those are the rules now. I don't like the rules. I think we could update those rules. I'm not on board for filibusters. I think I would like for things to be more, work towards the center. And I think that's what has happened with this literal border bill. The Senate has said Biden wants a thing. He wants aid to Ukraine. And we want a thing. We want these border things done at the South. Biden has agreed to it. He's being bipartisan. He's meeting them in the middle. And who is shooting that down right now? The hard right people of the House.
I don't agree with that characterization.
No? I mean, am I wrong about who's shooting it down?
I mean, we have to see what the Senate actually, because we don't have an actual bill from the Senate, and we don't know who in the Senate is actually on board with what provisions, right? We only have leaks of what people have said, and like, I think Lindsey Graham was one of the people who hinted that he was in support of the Senate bill, but he didn't think it would get through the House. I think.
Okay.
That was in one of the news stories we saw, maybe? I don't know.
Because they're less, they're more allowed to be wildly partisan. There's what 300 of them or something like that, 219 something like that. There's a shitload of them, so they get to be more.
36 million Congress
36
people. That's how many
congressmen, and because there are so many of them, they get to be more extreme. And is the what I'll do is I'll look at the bill on Monday for a Monday stream, and I'll bring it up, and we'll see if one side is being obstinate.
Is there an actual bill out? I have not.
I mean, what would they be talking about?
No, I know that they have one privately, but I didn't know that when the full, because I know there have been people have leaked provisions of it, but not even the actual text of provisions. Just there is a provision to do this, but I have not seen any actual law text of the bill. But maybe I'm just not looking hard enough.
Biden urges Congress to embrace border bill. I mean, does it exist?
Does it have a name?
Embrace bipartisan Senate deal to pair border.
Or maybe he's just talking about a guy
aids.
named William Border.
Just William
People
Border.
just call him Border Bill.
Border Bill. I want that to. I need to make a character for that. Okay, this is William Border. Dead on arrival in the chamber. He's just calling it dead on arrival. I don't know if it has a number. Senator Republicans initially insisted the border policy change to be included in the $110 billion emergency request funding Ukraine. So I think it exists. I think they can read it.
I think they can read it, but can we read it?
I'm not sure yet. I'll try and find a copy of it before stream on Monday. Oh, hi. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. The algorithm loves it when you watch it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to keep the algorithm happy, and I know you do, press the subscribe button, press the thumbs up button, leave a comment, tell me what you're thinking, tell me what you're feeling, and let's all keep that algorithm happy. Thanks. Have a good day.